Okay, this is going to be another tip for Logic 5. Tip number 3. Alright, there are a bunch of different ways to use Logic. Some people use it with audio first by using audio signals and wave signals, and other people like me, I use it for MIDI tracks. I'm going to show you in this tutorial a song with MIDI. If you're going to be using MIDI, you're going to need MIDI instruments. I've got a guitar here that I use with a Roland MIDI. Here I have an Akai, that's a sampler, JV880, a Yamaha. That's my Roland controller for my guitar, and above it there's an M3R, and then there's an MT32 above that, and up there on the top shelf I have my uniters and my AMT. Here you can see I've got a Logic control and 2 extenders. There I have a MIDI drum set, and there I have a MIDI keyboard. The arrange window. I usually use that to load my MIDI tracks on. I'm going to start Logic and show you how I load some MIDI songs on. I have a MIDI collection I got online. Just drag one. It's called a MIDI sequence. I'm going to drag it into my arrange window. Alright, as you can see, if I zoom in, notes, and there are different tracks. Now if you go to, and I have 2 event lists. That's probably the most important thing if you're going to be running off MIDI. One with the notes, just the notes, and the other with all the control information. Alright, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to the arrange window, and I'm going to click on a specific track. I'm going to click on this one right here. Now if I go back to the event list, you can see that on the controls event list there's the program number, and then there's a control for pan. And on the note list, the note event list, you can see all the lists of the notes for the particular track. Is you want to go to your options, the chase events. You want to make sure they're all checked here. And your MIDI options under your song settings, you want to make sure you have your SysX with MIDI through function checked, because that'll send the information. And all my MIDI instruments I have connected to the back of my uniters, and then my uniters are my uniter is connected to my computer via USB cable. Alright, as you can see, these are my instruments that I have connected to the computer. One is you're connecting the in and out. I don't usually use the through function on any of the instruments. I suppose you can use them to save cable, but I like to dedicate each MIDI channel to an instrument. My control surfaces, which are the uniters, which are the Logic controls. You can see I have 3 of them. The Logic controller is on one, and I have extenders on MIDI channel. The Logic controllers are on uniter 1, and the MIDI controls are on uniter 2 and uniter 3. Alright, now I want to show you something important you need to know about your uniters or anything like that. If you're going to be using a uniter to come through, you're going to have to go to your volume control, volume properties on your computer. Go to hardware. Then you're going to have to come down to uniter, and then you're going to click properties. And then you want to go to settings. Normally it'll only, if you had two MIDI controllers hooked up serially, it'll normally only recognize the first 8. It won't recognize the other the total 16. So all you have to really do is adjust this to 16. To tell the computer that there are totally 16 dedicated in and outs, because I have a uniter and an AMT connected to each other. Alright, now my computer is recognized to use all 16 MIDI channels. I wouldn't be able to assign in my environment these instruments to 16 channels unless I first did that in the audio hardware. I made sure that my system knew there were all 16 MIDI inputs and MIDI outputs. Alright, I'm going to quickly click on one of these things, and I'm going to show you some of the things that are in one of my instruments. And you can see all the different instrument names that are associated with that MIDI instrument. Like my keyboard, that was my keyboard. It has a whole bunch of different instruments on it based on the program number. Now there are some things you need to know. For example, this is my global mixer, my MIDI mixer that comes in Logic in the environment. If you highlight this and you go to the view, you'll see there are a whole bunch of different things associated with the window that you highlighted. I have them all checked. And now we can go back to the event list, and I'll show you, now that I highlighted one particular instrument, you'll see that the control says that particular instrument is number 48, but that strings is only associated with the instrument that I assigned it to. But that value is what the value that came with the song itself. But the strings there, that's what's associated with the range window that I have it associated with. In other words, if I go to the arrange window, if I shrink it down some, you can see how these are all banded together and they're all pretty consistent. You can tell right away that that's a drum track. On this here, most likely is maybe an organ track or something like that. This might be a guitar track. That's probably a bass track. And that is probably a wind track. Usually base it by where it is on the staff. Alright, I'm going to play this first thing you have to do is once you drag it in, and you already have, like in my first video I showed you how to create audio tracks. You're going to have to arm the tracks next. I have 16 tracks. Well, I actually have, my card has actually 24 tracks on it, but I only use 16 for now. And so I've assigned each one of these instruments to a particular MIDI instrument. So now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to play it for you real fast. And you'll hear the sound going through my sound card. Well, actually the MIDI instruments are playing the sounds. And what they're going into my mixer, and then from my mixer I'm sending them into the audio card, and they're going into the computer, and then they're already coming out of the computer now. This is the raw data that I'm getting from my instruments. Now if I want to record any of this, what I would do is I just hit the record button. And if you look down here, now you'll see those MIDI instruments are playing, and I'm recording the MIDI instrument. I'm recording the audio information right down here, the 16 tracks. See, there's a waveform right there. This is the way I like to do it. Some people take audio. I like to create the audio off an instrument, a real instrument, not the computer instruments. I like to use it off real instruments. Like I would use the guitar over there, or I'd use the keyboard, or I'd use the drums.